I hope you all are seeing me now. I guess just had to throw us off a little bit. It's always like that, you know, when you're trying to do something and all the time it's working and then it just stops. So thank you for your patience. And I hope, you know, it gave you all time to join us, and welcoming everybody this evening. You know, thank you so much for all the feedback we got from episode 1. It was really encouraging and, you know, making us feel that this is important. And, you know, we want to continue sharing with you what C15 is about, and, you know, sharing also the stories of the incredible entrepreneurs of the Caribbean. And this evening, we have 2 very special guests, Anya Ayoung-Chee, Sebastien Bas Gibert, who, you know, we'll introduce later on and chat with them and understand their journey and how, you know, how did they become successful and what are their tricks and that they can share with us. So, you know, we got some really great feedback last month, you know, people telling me that this gave them the incentive to pivot, to change. They were feeling pretty down. You know, I'm referring Kathy Ann Martin, good evening. You know, beautiful comments about upliftment and how they felt that this inspired them to really, you know, shift and look at the opportunities in their life and make the most of them. So that is really what this is about. This show is about, and what we're trying to do. You know, Giselle Singer also sent a beautiful message, you know, saying that she really appreciated the show and the content was really interesting. Giselle Singer, Trinidad and Tobago, beautiful singer and songwriter. Check her out. You know, so really thank you all, and keep the comments coming in. And even this evening, if you all have questions, put them in the chat. Let us know, you know, what you all are thinking, and if you all want more information on anything. So we're going to get right into the content. And as I mentioned last time, is that every program we're going to build on, you know, on what we talked about before, and present, you know, what products C15 Studios has to partner and support the creative economy in the Caribbean. So one of our big initiatives is a program called Accelerate Your Cash Flow. So for those of you who may not know even what cash flow is, so cash flow is the money, the capital that you have to run your business. So with our program Accelerate, it's giving you the opportunity to get that cash flow, that cash in advance. So if you have a signed invoice or a purchase order or a committed contract from a sponsor, and that payment, those payment terms are at, you know, 60 days, and you need that money up front to be able to execute and deliver the product or the service, you can come to C15 Studios and we will advance you that money on the strength of the invoice. So it's not about signing your house in guarantee or your car in guarantee or even a personal guarantee. It's on the basis of the invoice. And this is going to give you that flexibility and save you time, because instead of worrying about your cash flow and how you're going to pay to build, you can study strategy and you can sell more. So it's really a beneficial program. And it also allows you to start building your partnership and your relationship with C15. So we, you know, we start as a partner working on this cash flow advance, and then it can grow into other things like equity. We get to understand how your business functions. So, you know, it's really very, how to say, it accelerates. It's an accelerating program. So you can find out more about it on our website, c15studios.com. Or if you want to know more information, you can send us an email at hello@c15studios.com, and we, you know, will set up a meeting with you to explain more in detail. Of course, if you have any questions this evening, you can always put them in the chat and we'll try our best to answer those questions. All right. So, I forgot to mention, we also have a giveaway. Yes, the Hideout Clothing. has given us $100 US gift voucher for their website. So later on, we'll find out who the lucky winner is. So we're going to try and have these giveaways on each show. But to qualify for them, you have to register in advance. So I know a lot of y'all are just tuning in live and you may not have registered, and that's fine. Or you're those who are going to catch the replay, and that's great too. But for now, we're giving those giveaways to those who register in advance. So I think it's time to talk about, like the main topic this evening. And I really wanted us to go deeper into what Mrs. Montano and Mr. Valley talked about last month, where, what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. What are the tools? What are the tricks? What are the, what are the practices? How do you do this? And, our two guests this evening, in my opinion, really embody completely this, these qualities, because they've taken their brands from Trinidad and Tobago, from the Caribbean, and really placed them on the global stage. So our first guest, Sebastien Gibert, very excited to introduce him because, he just came from the project in Las Vegas where the singled out as one of the 6 brands at the project, as one of the 6 brands to look at. I mean, this is a trade show with hundreds of brands. So of course, this is quite an extraordinary achievement, but it's just one in the many, many achievements that Sebastien has done in his career as an entrepreneur. So let me officially introduce Sebastien Gibert, co-founder of the Hideout Clothing, the designer of the Hideout Clothing. And Sebastien, welcome. Welcome to the C15 Show.
Thank you for having me on the C15 Show. Hello to everybody.
Great. So tell us a little bit about, what inspired you, first of all, to start, the Hideout, and a little bit about the journey, like where you started and where you are today.
So what inspired me to start the Hideout? I guess first initially I started with a clothing store back in Trinidad. It was kind of something that me and my best friend from childhood had spoke about a lot growing up. We was always into brands, into clothes, into dressing nice to go out. I guess that is kind of like a Caribbean thing, you know what I mean? So we kind of always spoke about opening a store that would carry brands that are not available in Trini at the time. So that's kind of where the whole clothing thing originated. I mean, I could take it further back than that as well. I used to bring clothes down to Trini and like sell it on the streets, but that's a little before, I guess, it officially started, right?
Yeah.
But then we could fast forward a little bit to like designing. So we started just printing clothes to wear to work. And then people were interested in it. So we started making those clothes to sell, and it kept selling out. So we're like, all right, we might be onto something. Yeah. And then we eventually decided to do a whole collection, cut and sew, full production with designs. And that's kind of where it kicked off, I would say, in like 2017. And then we started that. We did like manufacturing with a factory overseas, and we decided to try and tackle the international market, most prominently the US. So we traveled to the US. We actually rented cars and drove state to state, introducing ourselves to different stores and boutiques and buyers across the US, and kind of built up like a relationship with different buyers and stores, and that's kind of how we got our Kickstarter, really push the thing forward, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so what would take you from, why did you just say, well, okay, I'm here in Trinidad, we have this store, we're selling our brands, and so we said, let's go on the road. Like, what was that desire? Because I want to get to the entrepreneurial spirit. The
desire was
a little bit about...
The desire was to just expand and grow the brand beyond being just a store in Trinidad. And obviously the market in Trinidad is not that big. So, I mean, we had big dreams to be a international streetwear brand, and you can't just do that selling in one market. You have to sell in as much markets as you can. Obviously, the US is a huge market and is very like in tune and one of the leaders with streetwear across the world. I mean, it's very tied to like pop culture, hip hop culture, rap culture, you know, and we very tied to dancehall culture, which is kind of similar. But yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't think, you know, like you kind of brushed it off, but I think I want people to understand that you literally went in this car and you drove around to stores that had never heard about your brand before. Never.
Some of them never even heard about Trinidad.
Right. So you like describe to us you walking into a store in Tennessee, for example.
Right. So first to begin, right, the entrepreneurial side, the business side, we took, I'd say like a month, a couple months of pure research. I mean, you'd spend hours day by day looking up stores that think fit your profile of your brand or whatever it is you're selling. And then you do like, thankfully now we have the internet, we have Instagram, we have Google, everything. So you could search. And I mean, we narrowed down state by state, store by store. So we would go, after we compile our list, compile like a specific route that we would take based on like distance, time, etc., how long it would take. And right, so you pull up by a store. I mean, it's like cold calling, I guess, in a sense. You're walking in a store, you introduce yourself. You have, I guess, a little sample on your lookbook or something. You would introduce yourself, say who you are, where you're from. Try to be entertaining a little bit, you know, like try to win over the buyer or the person you're talking to with some charm or whatever, because they don't really want to hear, like they have their business running, like they don't really care to try and add new brands, especially if, I mean, at the time, let's be fair, we're completely unknown, like completely unknown, a little brand from the Caribbean coming out to introduce. So yeah, you talk and then you show them your line sheet, whatever, and hopefully get them to say, well, sure, bring in the samples. So you go outside, put all the samples on a rack, like when you see something just like this, put it on a rack, tote it through the mall or if it's a plaza, wherever, tote it and show them the fabric, the quality, talk prices, if it's pre-book, if you're gonna ship at once. And yeah, that's basically how it is. And you do that over and over throughout the day for a few months. I mean, something, you know, you're playing the numbers, you're playing the odds. Some people will give you a chance. And the funny thing is, well, not a few, but the ones who did give us a chance in the very, very start, I give them like exclusivity within the city most of the time. Like I don't spread the brand out to stores near them, or that would be in competition with them, which they really appreciate. But that's just kind of like my return for appreciating them giving me a chance in the first place. You know what I mean? And now the thing's selling, they're very happy to have that exclusivity in the area, in the city or neighborhood or wherever.
Well, right. So this was about 4 or 5 years ago. When did that journey take place? In about 2018, right?
Yeah, 17, 18.
Right. So here you are now, you know, in 100 and something stores across the United States. You actually made it happen. And then COVID, pandemic.
Right. So the pandemic, right. So that was kind of a crazy situation. So the pandemic hit and we had already prepaid our inventory. So when this thing hit, I was like, all right, we're screwed. We're not going to be able to sell through this inventory. This is the end of the company. There's no way, like this, you're dead. I mean, one bad collection could out you in this clothing game. Like if you sell zero, obviously, because your money turning over in the inventory. And then amazingly, well, thanks to all that work we did, making those relationships, we was able to still continue relationships digitally, phone calls, you know, Zoom, whatever. Mostly phone call, text, WhatsApp, these kind of things. And then from there, hi, Anya. Well, from there, so the inventory actually came in, and amazingly enough, everybody took their orders. Like we couldn't even fulfill the amount of orders that we had because we didn't have enough inventory. Because a lot of brands, I guess, caught that this thing was happening and stopped the production runs because of the lack of visibility and the fear of what would have happened if they get all this inventory. But we didn't have that luxury, already paid for it, and it's already shipping, you know what I mean? So we got it in, and thankfully, amazingly, it sold through like we couldn't even keep up. We could have sold double our collection or triple the amount of orders, the amount of like people that wanted it. And then amazingly enough, too, during the pandemic is when we really focused on our e-commerce, and that did extremely well for us. Like e-commerce is almost, I'd say 40% of our business now, 45%. When before the pandemic, it was like 10, you know what I mean?
Very good. So what would you say, like what are some of your principles, or like, I want you to tell people a bit about how you work, your work ethic. Like, how do you build this success? How do you build this brand?
First, I would say, try and be as stress-free as possible, no matter what. You understand? So, because you're gonna get so many problems in business, so many obstacles, so many challenges. It's like every day. But the key is not to let that stress you out and bother you, and look for solutions, move on, keep working at it. Don't give up, because it will have times you're like, do I really want to do this? Is this even making sense? I'm not making no money. Like, you, especially if you're a young entrepreneur, you're gonna tell yourself that endless times through the journey and the struggle. You're gonna say, this not making money. Best I just get a job. But if you really push through it, and if you really believe in what you're doing, I think people will start to believe in it too. You know what I mean? Like, your product, people will be interested in it if it's of value to people.
So what is your work ethic? How many hours a day do you say you work?
I work non-stop, 24 hours. Just when I'm sleeping, I'm not working. But I literally, if I sleep, I'm not eating. That's when I stop working.
All right. So basically, your secret to success is hard work, perseverance, and just not giving up. Because as you say, I'm sure there were times there.
I would say hard work, but not hard work in the sense that you're working and you hate it. I'm not saying go and work hard like, oh God, I'm so vexed, I hate this stupidness I'm doing. Like, if it's hard work that you love, it don't even feel like hard work. You're just doing it because you're driven to that goal you're trying to reach. Like, you seeing like where you want to be, and that is so exciting and passionate to you that all the work you're doing not feeling like work, even though it's non-stop and constant. I think that's more important than saying just put on your head and work hard. I wouldn't suggest put on your head and work hard and dislike what you're doing.
Yeah, great point. And it's a beautiful quote actually by Khalil Gibran that says, work is love made visible. So basically, if you enjoy your work and you love your work, it's a manifestation of love. So I totally resonate with that, because as you know how passionate I am about my work. So before we wrap up with you, Sebastien, what's next for the Hideout? I've heard about Europe in the making. What's happening?
Right. So next for Hideout, well, coming up this year, we have a lot of, to start small before going to Europe, then we have a lot of collections being released with photography and collabs done with like famous influencers, musicians, artists. So that's already exciting. We're excited to see how the feedback is on that. And then we have this exciting adventure we want to explore, expanding into Europe. We actually got invited to the Paris Fashion Week in January to meet with la Fédération de la Haute Couture et de la Mode. So that was very exciting for us, and they seem really like interested and impressed of what we've achieved. And so that's an exciting thing. But yeah, that's the next goal. So that's a huge next undertaking. Obviously, I don't know if you want to hear all the details, and we need to get fulfillment center. Obviously, the websites have to be translated into different languages, different currencies. Like, it's a whole different ball game. Obviously, you have to learn the business climate and culture over there as well, because we've gotten accustomed to it in the US. So we know it's going to be different.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sebastien. Please stay on, because I'm sure people are going to have questions for you when we open up at the end. And we're going to bring on our second guest, Anya.
Thank you, guys. Thank
you.
Do I mute myself?
Yeah, and okay, I'm not sure if Anya is on, but I saw her come on, and then she's, so Yeah, in the meantime, what did y'all, if y'all have any questions on, you know, for the Hideout, if you have any questions about C15. Look, I see Anya back there looking all lovely. Hi, Anya, good evening, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
My pleasure.
Taking the time, you know, really wonderful to have you on. I mean, I'm time with these two young people, long time, and I have a lot of love for both of them. And I mean, I have worked with Anya for many years, I'd say almost 20 years. So, you know, I really have always admired her work and the stance that she's taken, because it's always been out of the box. Like, it's always been different. And you know, she had the claim to fame of Project Runway, but I think Anya has really shown that her interest and her passion is way beyond fashion. It's about, you know, Caribbean creativity and the creative economy. And she's stepping into a whole new domain now. So I'm going to let her take over and share a little bit of, you know, a little bit of your journey, but I know there's so much to tell, but at least the more relevant parts, because I think what's important this evening, the message I kind of want to share is what are the tools that we use to be successful and to keep pushing, you know, keep at it. And Sebastien shared some important ones, and I know you have some really key things to tell us. So go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you so much. You could tell me if you're hearing me fine, yes? Okay, perfect. Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. As you mentioned, we've had a long history of working together and knowing each other, and it's really quite a spectrum of work that we've done together, from fashion, obviously, but also now, of course, with Nudge Caribbean and the long journey in between. Lots of life experience, lots of really magical and special moments that we've shared. So thank you for giving space to talk about this. I think that a lot of that, you know, sort of contributes to success is rooted in one's own personal journey. I think that Khalil Gibran quote you just shared, of course, I've heard it before, but it's so powerful to hear it again, to think about work as a form of love, an expression of love, and love perhaps of oneself and of one's authenticity, you know. I think my journey and what you describe as being, I guess, out of the box, it's really just doing my best to be authentic, because I think my authentic self is a bit rebellious at times and can take different routes that are not expected, or maybe not the charted course, you know, the road less traveled, which can sometimes be a bit lonely, you know, to be honest. And I think that it really does take recalibration, constant recalibration of like listening to my inner voice. What is it that I want to do in this moment, even if it's not predicted, even if it's not like expected, because it's kind of easier to go the expected route. And oftentimes I've been called to do things that I don't even know how to do. I mean, to be honest, even becoming a fashion designer was not something that I had training in, and it was not something that I had any formal background in. And so even that move, even though most people know me as a fashion designer now, you know, however long ago that was, it was a completely out of nowhere, to some extent, you know, move on my part. I had just done Miss Trinidad and Tobago Miss Universe. Prior to that, I was a graphic designer. Like, you know, it was not really that I had gone after a particular dream. And so time and time again, I've recalibrated based on my inner calling. You know, my inner calling at the moment has a lot to do with marrying purpose and the opportunities that arise to me in business, whether that's through Wildflower, which is my festival wear brand that is now moving into the metaverse, and, you know, taking on this phygital strategy, selling both digital and physical items in tandem, but really marrying that back to my women's livelihood initiative called School, that is training women how to learn how to sew for both the fashion and carnival industries. So over the last 6 years in particular, I've really merged my love of fashion and my love of creativity with my drive to do things with mission-driven intent, you know. So that's also what Nudge Caribbean is about as well, supporting MSMEs through the lens of sort of creating a mechanism to support entrepreneurship in the region. And this is a really long answer just to say that I think like one of the main things is just really remaining authentic, you know, and having the courage, I guess, to step into new moments, even if it is a lot of unknown and a lot of fear. And so I think that's something I've tried to do.
And yeah, and I think that word courage is so important. And, you know, courage comes from cœur, which is heart, you know, in French. And it's so true, you know, it's about that big heart and about embracing. And I mean, the fact that, you know, Project Runway, exactly, that you learn to sew during the show, like, you know, and to cut. And the fact that you even took on that challenge, because most people might be presented with an opportunity and say, oh, no, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. I'm going to just no. But on the contrary, you were like, okay, I have this opportunity. How can I make the most of it? You know, and how can I rise? You've always, and that's also something I really admire about you, is that thriving for excellence. Like, I kind of place you up there, you know, and because these are people that I have had the great who stress for excellence in all they do. And I think you really stand out there. And that's why this new venture, and then tell us a little more about it, you know, with the whole island, you know, you're going to bring excellence into this fungible world, this new world that we're diving into.
Thank you so much for saying that. I mean, it's such an honor to hear that from you, Lorraine. Okay, so Island, which we have been working on for the last, I would say, 6 months or so. If not more, this has been quite a learning curve for my husband Wyatt and I, and our growing network of collaborators who all either are experts in the field of Web3 or you know, becoming experts over time, just to understand the opportunities for the creative economy here in the Caribbean. The Web3 revolution really creates, or has the potential to create, a tremendous amount of creative sovereignty and economic independence, economic freedom for creatives in this region and creatives everywhere. But of course, this is the region we feel most married to. And as you know quite well, Caribbean creatives have for very many years had a hard time creating a sort of sustainable living. And we have no shortage of talent, but we certainly have had a lack of traction. I mean, of course, we have the moonshots, we have these incredible, you know, talented people who have made it, quote unquote, you know, on the global stage. But we want to see a groundswell of this opportunity. You know, with the lack of the issue is not a lack of talent, but I do think a lack of infrastructure, and I do think that opportunity is not as disseminated as it could be and democratized, and that's what the blockchain and the Web3 revolution presents a solution for. And so NFTs, you know, the buzzword of the moment, are, yes, you know, sort of topical and at times divisive. People have very many different, you know, opinions on NFTs, but I can definitely attest to the fact that having dropped NFTs of my own through the Wildflower brand, having watched the Caribbean community of NFT artists grow, charting the course of people who have transitioned from traditional artwork to NFT artwork and moved their career in this direction, have seen exponential growth of their revenue streams, their exposure, their direct to consumer opportunities. I mean, down the line, plus intellectual property ownership. I mean, there's a laundry list of things that are a benefit to the Caribbean creatives. So we're really excited for what Island is going to become.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it, because this is we're kind of leveling the playing field, and then also for the creatives, like it gives so much opportunity for people who may not have been, you know, doing their drawings or whatever art form they were involved in, but in their corner. Now all of a sudden it's like the world is an oyster now, you know, it's right there in the palm of your hand or on the web, you know, on the Web3. So it really it presents a very exciting time. Like, I feel very excited about the future. I guess, of course, because I'm sitting here, the head of C15, and C15 C15 is a company looking to invest in the Caribbean creative economy. So of course that's exciting too, and it's at the pulse. But this NFT world for me, because of course I've been a lot in the background where, you know, copyright and artists and music and all of these things, and all of a sudden I'm seeing, okay, well, here's a way now where it can be fairly distributed, and I think that really is a big game changer,
It's massive. It's undeniably,
yeah.
That's why I use the word revolution. It's a revolution, you know. There are going to be many bumps in the road along the way, but I do think that in its most ideal form, it does present an opportunity that has never existed before, with the technology sort of embedding a mechanism to really benefit the creatives. And I mean, I can say, I'm sure you can say on your own behalf of the many musicians in particular you've worked with, the creatives are very rarely at the forefront of the opportunity. We provide a lot of the cultural capital, we provide almost all of the intellectual property, and yet we are sidelined, pushed to the bottom, you know what I mean? So anything that can empower the creative, I'm there for it, 100%.
Yeah, and that is, you know, what's so amazing. And you know what, I think, you know, Wyatt and you have really embraced this movement, and I've stepped it up and putting us at the forefront. And I know that a lot of research is going on, because as you said, it's uncharted territory. It's a revolution, and revolutions, you know, some people don't like it. You know, they're always the winners, if you want, and the losers in everything, in sports and everything. But it doesn't mean that because you feel you're losing now that you're not going to win, because I think in the end game, it will benefit the larger community. And as you rightly said, and I think that's also been kind of a mission for me, is like, yes, there are those who are very successful, you know, we have those big names out there, but it's not the majority of the Caribbean, you know. It's like, we need this creative economy to start making real money for everybody, not just the few, you know, key people who are able to do that. But thank you so much. You know, what really stands out from what you said and what I took away is that authenticity. Like, being authentic is so important. And that's why, and even, you know, when Sebastien was talking earlier, it's like knowing what you're trying to represent and being it and living it. Because when you, I mean, Sebastien, I always remember, you know, his uncles looking at him and saying, he dresses so funny, why does he dress like that, and so on, you know. And now they're like, oh, I see why, because, you know, this is the style, is the clothes. So you have to embody, you have to, it comes back to the quote, you have to love what you do. Work is love made visible, you know. And at the end of the day, that once you enjoy, it doesn't become a job, it becomes your life passion, you know. And you know, you've taken some time out to have your children, and I know even the struggle, because you're still working round the clock because you love it. You love it. It's simple as that, you know.
I guarantee you there are times that I wish I didn't love it so much. Because, like, yes, I'm on a constant grind, especially with a 6-month-old, and you know the whole story. But you know, I think that we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to the generations to come to live up to the excellence, as you mentioned. And the other thing I'd say about the Web3 movement is that it is truly collaborative, and I do think that that's a way, oftentimes as entrepreneurs, as creative entrepreneurs, and especially as artists, we chart such a lonely path, you know, and you're in your own little world, creating, and this movement really kind of gives room for just holding hands and moving forward together, you know. And I know that sounds super idealistic, but we have felt it, we have lived it over this last year of diving in. And I do think that all of a sudden now it's not only the creatives, it's all the technologists, it's all the sort of lawyers who are interested in this space, the policymakers, the funders. Like, it's a really collaborative exercise. It's magical. Like, and I think manifesting that love for what you do, yes, individually, but also collectively. And if we could do that as a region, finally, you know, we have the precedent, of course, of many different eras before that have done this in ways. But I do think we have to, like, actively work together towards not only participating in new technology, but taking a lead in the new technology. It's an opportunity for us like never before to be at the forefront of the innovation. And I really think that is something that we are the ones to do that, you know, and I'm excited for what that's going to look like.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, thank you so much. I mean, that is really inspiring and a lot of hope for us creatives out there. You know, those who are listening, I'm sure, you know, you'll feel uplifted because I'm feeling that energy. And I agree with Anya, this is a magical time. You know, we might have been in that tunnel during COVID, but one thing it allowed us to do is really to recenter and find that purpose. So, and now is the time to step out into the light and really shine and make it matter, you know, make it matter, you know, do the do. So
100%.
I want us to open up to some questions. I wonder if Carlana, one of my team members, could help, and just if there are any questions, could you read them out to us so I don't have to put on my glasses and so in between.
Hi, Baz. Long time no see.
So, good afternoon, all. Sebastien has actually been having a very interesting conversation.
In chat, my bad.
Yes. So one of the questions that I think he kind of answered was, I would love to know what Hideout Clothing did to differentiate themselves in such a huge market.
Honestly, this is what I was saying. I think the differentiator initially was obviously being Caribbean. It's a different edge. I mean, there's not much Caribbean streetwear brands. So that was a differentiator. But I think too, like, buyers appreciated the hustle. Like, as simple as it sounds, like just seeing a guy or some guys go so hard for their brand, for their passion, they're like, all right, we'll give it a shot. You know what I mean? Give it a chance. And then eventually from there, it grew, and I think you have to have good designs or in another feel-good product, something that people see as value to them, or else they wouldn't spend money on your stuff, you know?
True. I think this next question would be both for Anya and for Sebastien.
Sure.
How did you get past the quote-unquote small island thinking, coming from a Trinidadian base and going into the global markets?
Baz.
All right, well, I guess for me, it was like having a store in Trinidad, what gave me a kind of view of how big the market really is. And from there, I realized, like, if you want to dream big, you need to just access more people, as simple as it sounds.
Anya,
Yeah, I mean, yes, thank you. I think it's so funny. I had this exact conversation earlier today with this young man who started a really incredible fund. And he was saying, you know, there's something about just kind of showing up as your soul rebel self. And there's a side of me that's definitely a soul rebel, where it's not really relevant anymore where you're from and how small where you came from is. And because you're there just being you, I guess it comes back to the authenticity thing. You know, it's like knowing why you're there, knowing what you're there for, and having the courage to just do that because it's your mission. It puts all that insecurity aside. And I definitely have that imposter syndrome thing. Like when I was on the runway for the last episode of Project Runway, I remember having to like literally take myself out of my own shoes and put myself in these shoes that everybody else saw me, which was just as eligible, just as worthy, just as much of a contender, but it was a reframing of my own value. And I think that's a day-to-day reminder. And it comes really from that place of just showing up as my most authentic self in every moment that I have the courage to do that.
Yeah, I think that is so important, and it's such a good point, because again, when you step out, you know, like self-doubt, all of us have self-doubt, you know, but you constantly push yourself and show up, and then, you know, you get that feedback. And I think Anya is right in the sense where, you know, use it to also the small island, use it to your, as Sebastien said, use it to your advantage. You know, people are attracted by the Caribbean. So what can you show that is, you know, from the Caribbean, but still, you know, representing the market you're trying to attract? So Yeah, don't let that hold you back. You know, I think actually the Caribbean, we have so much to share with the world, just from our joie de vivre, from the way our presence, from the way we live life, you know, so go for it.
Agree.
Anything else?
Totally.
Kalana?
Not much of questions, but I think some people would like to know advice for somebody trying to now start up in a market and now start up their brand. If you have any kind of first steps where you would, you know, give them advice to lead towards.
Anya? Go, Anya. Because
Oh,
you're
me?
good at
Oh,
this.
God.
You help.
I mean, I always say, I mean, talking about in fashion, right, Carlana, that's specifically the area.
We are fashion right now, yes. Two
Okay.
amazing designers, yes.
Well, I mean, I just want to say to Sebastien, like, I'm so incredibly impressed with what you've done with Hideouts. And I mean, I DM'd you the other day to tell you this, but I think one thing that the Hideout has done that I think is really crucial is finding your exact niche, which I think, again, speaks directly to that sort of authentic voice. Oftentimes we want to be everything for everyone. And I have learned that does not work. And I think that, you know, again, like, you know, bringing your personal story into the work is really important. Figuring out like how, you know, the way Sebastien has made sure that, at least this is my outside in looking in impression, like the brand is a reflection of you, you know, it's a reflection of your personal style. Of course, you then figure out how to commercialize that. You know, you may not wear every single thing you design, but it comes from a very specific personality. And I think the market is always looking for something that has a unique perspective. Everything's been done before in some iteration, but when you come to it with your own voice, it will inevitably have a distinctiveness to it. And I think that we, like we just said, have a tremendous amount of natural, you know, value proposition coming from a very small part of the world, and with, you know, a culture that everyone loves. We're very lucky to be standing on the shoulder of giants, from the music legacy to the, you know, all the cultural capital that we get to express and represent. So the first thing I always say to you, an aspiring designer, is, well, first of all, make sure that's what you want to do, because it's not an easy road.
Right.
Find out what's your true authentic voice, and how does that get expressed as effectively as possible in a commercialized landscape. And again, thirdly, I would say is find yourself in communities like this, where you can borrow best practice, where you can learn as much as you can ahead of time, where you can, you know, the best thing I ever did was have the courage to speak to Mailca when I just started and ask her to be my mentor. Without that, I would have made so many unnecessary mistakes. You know, she helped me tremendously from before I even had a collection, you know. So I think mentorship, community, expertise, guidance, and the ability to sort of, you know, take care of yourself while you do the work is really important.
Yeah. And I think you all didn't touch on, and I think it's important to the support system, because at the end of the day too, let's face it, you all, you know, both of you had families behind you who supported your, I think, Anya, your parents would have supported.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Creative. Right. So, you know, that's important, because you're not fighting against, you know, the home, like, I want to be a designer. No, you have to go and be a teacher. You have to go and be a doctor or whatever. So I think, you know, having the support also from home is really important. But I like what you said about the finding your market. And I mean, we see this in Nudge, because actually I also am part of Nudge, and Nudge is about supporting, you know, small, medium entrepreneurs. And one thing you learn is like trying to be everything to everybody, you end up being nothing to nobody. And the key to having a successful brand is really identifying that market and zoning in on that market and building out that market, and then it transcends, you know. So, you know, those are some key points there. So I hope whoever asked that question, that would inspire you.
Sebastien noted. I took up all Sebastien's time.
No, I find you pretty much said what was the truth and what needed to be said. I would say, like, probably starting too is, don't get too if it's really what you want to do, don't get too discouraged with like the negativity, or I don't want to say haters, because some people might just genuinely not like what you're doing. And it's not because they hate it, they just don't like what you're doing. But if you like it and you believe in it and you think it does give value to people and it is something that people will like, I would say don't give up. Because the amount of people that same story you're going on your road, the amount of people tell us like, get out of my store, no, or this is crap, or it's like, you know, you have to take them hits and be like, all right, keep pushing, you know. I mean, I believe in what I'm doing, so.
Yeah, you have to have thick skin, as they say. You know, you can't take it too personal, and because there will be times you're down. You know, Anya had her adversity. Sebastien has had many adversity. You know, you have adversity, but that helps you grow. You know, and become, you know, understand from your mistakes and learn from your mistakes. You know, and
it's a lesson.
Yeah.
And the more you understand that, that's why I go back to stress. The more you understand every loss is a lesson, you realize like stress is just something in your head. It's not something real. Because everybody gonna have to face like obstacles. You just can't get away from it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we have one more,
Well,
and I
that's
think
a
it's
very mature. Go ahead.
one more question. It's a little bit of a heavy question, I think. So the question is, what is the new global business model that works for doing global business? And they kind of asked a few different questions in like subcategories, because I think they're really just trying to figure out what the possibilities can be. And so is it really having a unique Caribbean global brand? Do you need to have a quality design? Or is it really having a registered international business or trademarking? Like, what do you see as, you know, at least the go-to top 3 for a global business?
I would have ticked all the above, but go ahead, Sebastien.
All the above. Well, I could say definitely the space that Anya is in right now is like the whole NFT world, e-commerce, online, use social media. The world is flat. You could access everybody now. So definitely use all the mediums you could. Be on every platform you could. Provide good content for people if you're trying to go global. I'll jump to the next question. Yeah, you would need international trademark. I don't think you have to have an internationally registered business. You know, you could export with a local business. You may need a fulfillment or distribution in the country you want to sell in, though, I would say, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to open a business in our country. Banking, yeah, you could, I mean, you would probably need an account in the currency that you're selling in, because you don't want to sell e-commerce and people are paying in TT dollars, or for example, we want to sell in Europe. We're not going to charge people in US dollars. The customer is going to be confused and be like, this is a scam. Why am I paying US dollars and I'm in Europe? Yeah, marketing, definitely. You need to invest in marketing. But I think you could start without spending millions on marketing, just because of the accessibility we have with the internet and the NFTs and social media. I mean, you can do content almost with your phone now and it will look good, you know? I think that covers the points if Anya want to jump in.
No, well, I mean, I think Bas covered everything there in terms of like specifically the questions in terms of establishing a global business. Of course, like any other business, the model depends on the business. But I do think like all the things that Sebastien was saying, if we put it through the lens of being a fashion designer in particular, I mean, I kind of wish I was starting now compared to when I started, you know, how many years ago, because direct to consumer has revolutionized the way that an independent brand could have a business. You know, when I started, there was no opportunity to sell direct to my consumer. I had to have figured out like the more laborious routes of distribution through the retailers and the sort of middlemen that are like gatekeepers to your customer. Whereas now, there really is with social media, like Sebastien said, with being able to build a website in a day. You know, of course, it will always be iterated, but like all the sort of consumer-oriented technology tools that are designed for independent brand owners to be able to get their product directly to their ideal consumer have changed the game for what you might now be able to describe as a global business. Like that, I think that's one version at least. So I think having I do think one major aspect of building a global brand in this moment is being technologically savvy. I think being able to kind of like leverage the many different tools that are sometimes free, that are affordable, more or less affordable, like you really could build a global brand incrementally using the many different technology tools there are. So that's kind of like my go-to mechanism,
I mean,
you know?
That's wonderful comment back. I mean, I think the audience.
Oh no, we lost Lorraine.
Uh-oh, lost Lorraine. Maybe call on her. Oh, there she is.
She's back.
Okay, I don't know what happened there.
You're there.
Yeah, because we're going past the time we're supposed to go. So I don't know, we jumped there, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Anya and Sebastien. So, but it's time for the giveaway. And Gregory Watkins, I hope you're watching because you've just won a gift voucher of $100 US to shop on the Hideout Clothing. So we will communicate directly with you and let you know how to access that. But thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in this evening. And thank you so much to the guests. And I really enjoyed chatting with both Anya and Sebastien. They really inspire me, and I can't wait to see what else is in store because these guys, they're known and they are really that generation of creative entrepreneurs. And yeah, at C15, we want to support this type of initiative and this type of venture. And so next month, we're going to talk what it takes to, because, you know, it's not that simple. Just saying, I want to find what to be financed. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you, everyone.
Nice seeing you, Anya. Take care.
You too, Sebastien. Bye.
Enjoy your night.